Hi everyone and welcome to Becoming Iconic. I am so excited to be jumping on this episode today, and I'm so excited to be calling forward my first season. Over the next 10 episodes, I am going to be talking about all things love, and this is for the Muslim woman who hasn't yet found her dream husband. You're an ambitious Muslim woman, you've got a great job, you're doing well in your career, but you are utterly single right now. And this season is all about why and how to get unstuck so that you can end 2026 a lot closer to having a ring on your finger, if not already engaged. So, in today's episode, we will be talking more about why. Why, as a brilliant, beautiful, intelligent Muslim woman, why may you be sitting here unmarried? Why is dating so frustrating? Why are you attracting the worst of the worst men? Why? And before I do that, I love talking to this topic because I was you. 5 years ago, I was sat where you guys are in a really great career. I was doing pretty well, but I was really, really single. I was really struggling with the marriage search. I spent 10 years looking, and it is such a demoralizing process. And it's like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. It's like major low-key anxiety that just sits at the back of your mind, the pressure from your family, the pressure from our parents. And all we want to do is just meet someone decent enough that we can build a life with and just have that weight lifted off. And I think that whole process is really sad, because for so many of us, we can have achieved so much in our careers, but it kind of means nothing if you're not married. All your achievements haven't really amounted to anything, or they are of no value if you are not married. And so now I am sat here married to my dream husband. I've got 2 kids, I've got a great job, I run my own business. And I've just been feeling really called to talk more about this topic because it's affecting so many of you. It affects every single Muslim woman, right? And so I think it's important that we talk about these things, but talk about these things in a solution-focused way. So, let's get into it. And in today's episode, I am going to be sharing what is the big issue. Why are these incredibly intelligent, career-oriented Muslim women, why aren't they getting married? And the number one reason is because of your career. Your career is literally stopping you from getting married. Your obsession with your career, your obsession with moving up, is completely stopping you from attracting the dream man. And I know that can be hard to hear. I am a self-confessed workaholic. I love working. I love my business, love working in my career. But there came a point where I had to look within and really take a hard look at myself to understand why this wasn't coming through for me. Why was I attracting this low caliber of man? Or why am I attracting crickets? And when I took a look back, when I really sat with myself, I recognized that all my energy, all my effort, all my everything was going into my career. And a part of that was because I knew deep within that I was in pain, but I just didn't want to admit it. And I think so many of us find it so hard to admit that we're in deep pain, Like not being married to the right person causes us deep pain within. Because we want to get married, we want love, we want romance. We want those things, but it's hard for us to admit that those are things we want. And I'm not sure why. I think it's because, especially women in my generation, if your parents or one of your parents is from back home, you're sort of the first generation, if you're an elder daughter, all of these things come in and you're the person having to hold it all. You've got huge amounts of responsibilities. You become very practical, and things like love and romance and all of that sort of stuff doesn't feel available to us. It doesn't feel like it's likely for us. It's just one of those things that are for white people. It doesn't really happen in the Muslim world or within our culture. And I know for me, when I really thought about marriage, when I think about the things that I heard growing up about men, they weren't necessarily positive. The relationships I saw around me weren't necessarily positive. Like I remember vividly my mum saying something like, Charlotte, like, men are useless. Like, you just got to choose the best out of a bad bunch. Can you imagine that being said to you? Like, I had a really low bar when it came to men. So getting married didn't feel exciting for me because I just thought I was going to have an additional person, an additional responsibility. And so therefore I wasn't necessarily excited, but I knew that it was something everybody wanted. I knew I wanted kids, so it was something that I just had to get through. And that if I wanted a career, because I had this belief that men don't like career-oriented women, then I was going to have to just make sure that I could stay on top of my career, stay on top of looking after my husband, stay on top of looking after my kids, sort the house, sort the cleaning. And let's be honest, if that's the way that you're thinking, then marriage and getting married isn't going to look very attractive to you. It's not going to be something that you're very excited about. And so it's really important that we actually sit down with ourselves and ask ourselves, what do we really, really want? And what would that look like if Allah gave us whatever we wanted? Allah has the power to give us anything that we want. Nothing is too big, nothing is too small for Him. All the limitations we have are in our mind. And our limitations are not Allah's limitations. And so when I really sat with myself and really thought about what it was that I really, really wanted, it's like I just wanted to feel supported. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted somebody to be so proud of my career. I wanted it to be one of the best traits about me, like how hardworking I was, how I had this calling for this business. I wanted someone to be really proud of that and supportive of that. And I think for so many women, our career is part of us, it's an important part of us. But we don't feel like others will love that side of us. It's almost as if we have to be defensive around it. And we don't. But I do think that when you think about what it is that you really, really want, and it is going to be marriage. Because at the end of the day, you can have the most glamorous career, the most glamorous business. But it doesn't mean much without a loyal, loving partner by your side, without a family by your side. And so if you know that that is something that you really, really want, then you have to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? This is going to be my priority focus. Like, this is going to be the focus. For so many of us, when we're going for promotions, getting a new job, striving towards setting up a business, we pour so much energy and attention and focus into it. And our love lives do not get anywhere near as enough attention. And so this is a point in your life where you have to say, you know what, this is going to be the priority. And that doesn't mean that your career or your business or other areas of your life are going to fall apart. Just like when you're searching for a new job, other parts of your life don't fall apart, but it's a conscious decision that this is going to be a priority area of focus for you. And I know for me that when I made that decision for myself, I actually took some drastic action. I had been doing really well at work, but unfortunately I was going through a really difficult period. Work had become quite toxic and I felt like I was being passed over for promotion. And there could have been a point where I said, you know what, I'm just going to really knuckle down and really focus on getting this promotion. But there was a point where I said, you know what, Charlotte, you need to heal. You need to calm, you need to relax. You need to slow down. And by the way, all of this coincided with COVID, which was just despite being a difficult time, was also such a beautiful time to recognize that we need to slow down, especially if you're always on the go, and I always was. And I made a conscious decision that, you know what, I'm just going to solely focus on my personal life. This is the time for it. My personal life is important. My career is important, but my personal life is important for me at this stage of time. And I made the conscious decision that I was going to change my environment so that I could pour all of that time and attention and energy into my personal life. And I actually took an internal secondment into an internal team within my company, somewhere where I wasn't client facing, always on the go, somewhere where I could be around new people that weren't so toxic. And it was wonderful because I had a year and a half of just quiet, of being able to just fully focus on my personal life. And it was absolutely worth it because in those 12 to 18 months, I found my dream husband, I got married, I moved across the country, I went on a beautiful honeymoon, I set up my business, which is now a 6-figure generating business. I did so much for myself, and I also still was able to pour into my career because I doubled my salary in one career move. I was able to leave my toxic workplace. I was able to go on the job search, and I was able to double my salary in one career move and jump to a different company. So absolutely worth it. And I think for so many of you, you need to make this conscious decision, you know what, my personal life is important. And if I can make this change for myself, it is going to pour into so many parts of my life. So many parts of my life. I even remember I also lost so much weight. I became so fit and healthy. I shifted. I'd been overweight for a really long time. And I shifted over 10 kilos. I was in the best shape of my life. I just felt incredible. And I really believe that if you can make that conscious decision for yourself, it will be so powerful for you. Now, when we say we are going to pour into our love lives, what does that mean? And what does it mean not to pour into your career? I think for a lot of people might think that this means just let's jump into dating, let's jump into the apps, let's jump into all of this stuff. And that's not what I mean at all. The first thing that I did was I looked at who I was. Who am I? What is my identity? What am I so proud of myself around? And when I really got down to it, my identity was my career. It was my company, it was my role, it was my title, it was my salary. And I was so proud of who I was in the workplace. I was a leader. I commanded energy. I, was a team player, but there was that feeling of leadership. I was in control. I was assertive. I was structured. I was goal-oriented. I was driven. I was independent. I was self-sufficient. I've got money coming in. I felt really proud of myself. And what I recognized was that I was always in my masculine energy. Always in my masculine energy. And that works super well because being in your masculine energy brings in results. It earns you success. It brings in money, helps you earn respect. Being in your masculine energy is not a bad thing at all. It's a great thing, especially in your career, especially in business. But what I recognized was that love does not need that. Being in a marriage is not about any of those things. And in order to be in a loving relationship, in order to attract the one, what is needed there is connection. And what is needed is me tapping into my feminine energy. And when I really started to look at the differences, I started to recognize that, oh, Charlotte, you are always in your masculine energy. And I see this with literally every career-oriented woman that I talk to and who's struggling to find the one. It's like, oh, wow, you are 100% always in your masculine energy, and you never allow yourself or have never felt like you are able to step into your feminine energy. And by the way, none of these energies are bad, right? Masculine energy isn't bad, feminine energy isn't good, and vice versa. They are both needed in order for you to have a balanced life, and you just need to know when to lean into one or the other. But for career-oriented Muslim women who are very ambitious, you will note that you are likely majority of the time in your masculine energy. And how that comes out is you are always on the go, right? You are always rushing. You are always leading. Life is just always full on. You always have to be in control. And in your dating life, it manifests as feeling like you're doing all the work. Like you're literally having to carry the conversation. Like it feels like work. And that's because you're in that masculine energy. And usually when you're in that energy, who do we attract? We attract people who feel competitive with us, who dismiss our career achievements. Many just don't want to get to know us. Or we attract men who set the bar so low, they do zero effort. And that's because we are doing all the work, we're carrying it. So you attract those two types of men. Think about if that's the type of men you're attracting. Are you attracting low effort men who don't organise the dates, who don't take you on great dates, who don't really message, they don't communicate well, they sort of don't let you, they sort of lead you on. You never know where you're at with them. Or you attract another type of man who's like low-key competitive with you. I know that that's who I attracted. And then half the time I attracted crickets, like nobody. Nobody wanted to get to know me. And that was so frustrating because I was like, what? I'm just such an amazing woman. Everybody in my work life loves me, and like my family love me, and I'm just so great. And like, how are these men not getting to know me? Like, I'm so amazing. I'd be an amazing wife. Like, I'd be so good. And then I recognised, like, Charlotte, would you be an amazing wife? Would you? Because you're always in your leadership, masculine energy. And is that who you want to be as a wife? Because you keep saying you want to meet someone who's going to support you in your career, who's going to love you. And that doesn't require you to be in your masculine energy. And this is where we start to think about our feminine energy, right? What is feminine energy? And I actually had to literally read about this in a textbook because I literally had no idea, right? And feminine energy is about being open. It's just being open, and it's being able to receive. And I was like, what does receive mean? Like, what does that mean? I don't understand. Like, receive what? And it's like, you should be able to receive love. You should be able to receive compliments. You should be able to receive what somebody is saying to you with openness and curiosity. And I started to notice that, do I display those traits? And I was like, no. Because naturally when a guy speaks to me and he says something, I found that I was less open, that I was kind of defensive, that I was kind of on guard, that there was a bit of a wall up. And I wasn't open. If somebody gave me a compliment, I'd always be like, oh, you know, I was not the type of person to be like, oh my gosh, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much. Like, I was just not that person. I did not celebrate my wins. And I found it really hard to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable doesn't mean not having standards. Being vulnerable means being able to share, even in discomfort, sharing your viewpoints, sharing things that are on your heart, things that are on your mind. And I was just not that person. I recognise now that in dating, although that I really, really wanted to meet this high caliber of man who would love and support me, there was a part of me that was performing and wanting to be chosen. I just wanted to be chosen. Like, why can't a guy just choose me and want to be with me? It was like, that is not the right way. You shouldn't be waiting to be chosen. You should be going ahead and doing the choosing. And I had to recognise that the men that I was around, was I being appreciative of them? Was I being responsive? Was I being trusting? Was I being warm? Not necessarily. And so there was a journey that I had to go on to really access my femininity, my feminine energy, to be open, because all of those things then help you create connection. It then helps you create chemistry. It then helps you create emotional safety where you both feel you can be vulnerable with each other. You know, and it helps you build not only compatibility, we're always looking for compatibility. Are we compatible? But we have to be able to build connection. And being in your feminine energy allows you to do that. I think a really beautiful statement that I heard is that masculine energy allows you to build your life, but feminine energy lets someone else into it. And I had this realization of like, Charlotte, you are building your life. You are doing so well. You're going to have this beautiful home and this beautiful things, and your career is top notch. Your business is going to do well. But is there going to be anybody by your side? And the answer is no, because I'm not allowing myself to use my feminine energy to bring somebody in. And what I was doing low key was saying, like, I've done it all. I've built my life. I don't need anybody's help. I've always done everything myself. I don't need anybody's help. And I may not say that verbally, but because so many of us have had to struggle and we've had to do things ourselves and we've had to become financially independent, and you know, we feel this pressure to look after our family, there is this feeling of like, we have to carry this alone, we have to do this alone. And what that does is low-key emits an energy that like, I'm okay single, like I'm okay to do this by myself, I've got to do this by myself. And it blocks allowing somebody to come in. And imagine there's a man out there, or most men, they're seeking that connection. They're seeking the ability to support you. It's innate in men to want to provide for you, to support you. And if we are being tough in our masculine energy, we just literally cut that off and say, hey, well, we don't need you. We've got everything sorted. And so many people, like when I talk about this, like I've had conversations with other women who are like, well, you know, we don't want this to be like, we don't need a man. We don't want to be the damsel in distress. And that's not what this is. I believe every single woman should have stability within herself. She should have financial stability. She should have independence. But I don't believe that she can't receive help from others. It's like you can want that for yourself, but also want to be provided for. Also be supported. Also not want to have to carry everything alone. You can have both things at the same time, and sometimes we feel that they're a contradiction when they're not. So, I had this realization that my identity was so tied to my career. And I had to go through this journey to say, you know what, Charlotte, you need to untie your identity from your career. And initially my identity was just so tied to the organisation. I'd been at an organisation for 10 years and my identity was just that organisation. It's like, whoa, that's not even good from a career perspective. Like, you need to move on. You need to like cut the cord. And that's why it was so important for me to leave, to start to detangle my whole identity from my career. And I then had to lean into what other parts of my identity are there? I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin. And then I thought about the other identities I wanted. I want to be a wife, I want to be a mother, I want to be an entrepreneur and business owner, I want to be an auntie, I want to be a daughter-in-law, I want to be a sister-in-law. And then when I looked at the whole thing, it was like, this career bit is just this little bit over here. There's all these other identities. And you have literally just been concentrating on this little thread. And there's all these other ones you've just given no attention to. And that's when I then leaned into my personal life and I started to detangle myself away from my career. And that doesn't mean that I stopped being ambitious, I stopped going for things. I've told you, like, I doubled my salary in one career move. But I think at that point I started to realise where I had been settling. And I see so many Muslim women settle. There are so many Muslim women who are being severely underpaid right now. Severely underpaid, right? So many women who are being passed over for promotion. And there came a point where I had to say to myself, yeah, you look successful on the outside. On paper, you look successful. You've worked at this top company. But you are not where you should be right now in your career. You're not where you should be. Where should you be right now? And it was this like real focal point of saying, well, hey, this is where I should be and this is what I'm going to really go after. I'm going to stop chasing these promotions. I'm going to stop chasing X, Y, Z. I'm going to stop chasing these people giving me what I want. I'm going to really chase where I should be, which is literally at double this salary. And in doing so, I reset my self-worth. When I got that job, when I got that pay offer, I reset my self-worth, and that really changed the way that I showed up in my personal life, in my love search, because my self-worth had completely reset. But whilst I was detangling myself away from my career, I was spending time leaning into my feminine energy. And for me, like, being in my feminine energy means, for me, to like really get into it. I know it's about being open and vulnerable about receiving, but I also recognize that, was I really just being generally stereotypically feminine? And the answer was no. You know, I wasn't really looking after myself. I ate badly. I didn't look after my body. I didn't really put makeup on. I didn't put jewelry on. My wardrobe was dire. I was just in joggers all the time. And so I really did go on this journey of like reclaiming, not feminine energy, but just my femininity, coming back into that. Because for so long, I had been in my masculine energy of work, money. And so being able to go back into that was really, really powerful for me. I started to do things like journaling. I started to really sit down with myself and reflect. Like, I almost came home to myself. And then from there, I actually found it easier to step into my feminine energy. And I'm not going to lie, it was work. Like, it wasn't easy. There were things that I had to practice, like accepting compliments, going on dates and being curious about men, not being on guard, being really present in the moment. Like, I'm not getting to know this guy for marriage. Like, I don't believe I'm getting married to him. Let me just stay in this present moment and just try to enjoy this specific interaction. Let me be curious. Let me be open. Let me be trusting whilst using my discernment. And that was a real change for me, and it wasn't necessarily easy. And I think what we have to recognize is that there's a common misconception that if you're in your feminine energy, that you are weak, that you'll be like a submissive doormat. But that's not what feminine energy is. Feminine energy is about being open and self-aware. Right? Being softer. Lots of people call it soft. But being softer doesn't mean you have no standards. It just means that you're not leading with this armor and this defense all the time. And if you look at yourself and your dating and your love journey, you may recognize that you, as much as you've tried to be open, there's always been this armor. In your feminine energy, you have to be able to release the armor. And when you do that, you'll find that when you go into dating, you're less performative. What do you mean by being performative? Many of us, when we go into dating, we are putting on a bit of a show. Are we being our true selves? We feel like we are, but are we? I feel like when lots of the women I speak to, when they go into dating situations, they are almost treating it like interviews. They've got their checklist. It's like they need validation. And they bring a performance into dating. And they're not allowing themselves to be seen as their full identity, which isn't just this career bit, it's all these other bits that I shared. And we don't allow ourselves to go into that, to sit within that, to sit within wife energy. So I like to call it like my career identity and my wife identity. Like I was going into every love interaction into my career identity, not into my wife identity. And I think when I thought about going into my wife identity, I thought that meant, oh, I've got to not talk about my career because he's not going to want to hear about it. And I've got to talk about like, yeah, I'm going to do the cooking and the cleaning and I'm going to look after the kids. It's like, no, that's not what that is. Who do I want to be as a wife? I want to be someone who's open, who's trusting, who's curious, who's loving, who's genuinely interested, who talks about her career and excitement, but it's not the only part of her identity. And I think all of you need to remember that your career is something that you do, but it's not who you are. And I think for me, it's been so cathartic to remove the crutch that I was using my career as. My career was such a big crutch for me. It was a crutch because I was so devastated about my love life, and I used it as such a crutch so that I didn't have to face the deepest pain point in my life or other deep pain points that were going on in my life. And I used my career as a crutch that I could pour into the only thing that was kind of going right, the thing that I had control over. And that was the wrong thing to do, because when you are feeling destabilized, we don't go stand on the thing that feels stable. We need to go and stabilize the other areas. And this has really served me as I come into building and scaling my business, because I've not made my business identity mean everything about me. It's just a part of who I am. And I love business. And even from a career perspective, you can do this. I love business because you have a brand. You have a company, you have a personal brand. And obviously within your personal brand, there is an essence of you in it. Right? In my visible personal brand that you guys see out on social media, obviously my essence is within there. Right? It is a big part of me. But that personal brand is curated. And it is not all of me in there. That means that if I don't make sales or something isn't going right, I don't crumble as a person, because business is not my full identity. It's got its own personal brand. It's like someone chose not to buy from the company. They didn't choose not to buy from me, from the company. Like I can detach myself. And I think detaching from my career identity was really served me as I came to scaling my business. And now I know there's so much more to life. Like I've got all these other beautiful parts and I pour so much into those things, but am I still very career ambitious? Am I still very business focused? Of course I am. I love what I do. But there's other parts of me that I can equally pour into. And I now have the right balance because I'm constantly switching between masculine, feminine. I've got that really nice balance. And you'll find that a bunch of women are always in their feminine energy, but never access their masculine energy. And those women also feel unfulfilled. So it's about finding and striking that right balance. And look, if you're sat here thinking like, I just love my career, I want to just focus on career, I want to do this, I want to do that. my conversation to you is look at the world that we're living in right now. 5 years ago when I went on this journey, the world did look pretty different. But look at the world we're living in right now, where we are being silenced in the workplace. Look at the world events, look at the politics, look at the wars. And you've got to think, like, is this where I want to be? I'm being silenced right now. Is this where I really want to be? Like, yeah, I'm doing well, but is this what I actually see for my life? And I know for so many of you, that is not what you see. Your career is a pit stop. It's the place where you are, inshallah, gonna access growth. You're gonna access maternity leaves. You're gonna be able to fund your businesses and the impact you want to make in the world using your 9-to-5 paycheck. You're going to be able to go part-time using that money, and then you're going to be able to go build something of your own and eventually leave the corporate space. But when you go on this journey to prioritize love, my conversation to you is, why get paid so low for doing the same thing? You've got so much value to give. You're being severely underpaid. You know, why not go get paid double what you're getting paid right now? Rebuild your self-worth. Use that money to enjoy your life, to be able to really help you confidently step into your feminine energy, to tap into your love life, to invest into yourself, to feel good about yourself, so that when you're going into the dating love world, you feel really amazing about yourself. And start to build your business. I love pouring my masculine energy into my business. That's where I really lead and direct and feel really confident and really good. So, for those of you who continue to just pour and pour and pour into your career, the unfortunate trap is that you'll end up in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s unmarried. And your career will be the only thing you have, and it will be your highlight and your achievement. And you just don't deserve that. You just don't. You deserve to have a family. You deserve to have a beautiful marriage. And I've worked with so many clients recently who are in their 30s, who are in their 40s. And alhamdulillah, they're now getting married to really good men. And that doesn't mean they've lost who they are. They've not lost their career. It just means that they've realised that there's so much more than just their career. There's so much more to them than just this one part. And you deserve to know that you are worthy, that you are amazing, whether you have this career or not. We've attached so much validation and self-worth to it, and it's like, you don't need to. You are still so incredible and wonderful and amazing, even if you didn't have this thing. But if I strip that away from you right now, you would probably feel worthless. You wouldn't feel like you've got anything about you. And I think that's why so many of us go into dating and speaking to guys saying, hey, this is what we do. Because we feel like this is something someone we're proud of. Because we're so afraid to be like, is there anything more to us? What else can we give? And you've got to recognise you've got so much more to give. So much more. So, I would say that if you are really focusing 100% on your career right now, if you're really going for it in your career right now, but you know you really want love, then this is the time to make a decision. This is the time to make a decision and say, this is going to be an area of focus for me this year. This is going to be my number one priority. I am going to start to learn how to access my feminine energy. I'm going to start to learn to balance the masculine and the feminine. I'm going to start to learn how to be open, to receive love, to receive compliments. I'm going to learn how to put this armor down, to not feel so defensive. I'm going to learn and lean into being curious. And I'm going to start to extract my identity away from just my career. I'm going to start to pour into these other parts of my identity. Career, I've poured so much into it, it's okay for me to take a little bit of a backseat here. It doesn't mean it's going to disappear. It's still there. It's still a part of me. I'm so versed at it, I can come into it so easily. But I'm going to take the time and attention to focus on these other things. Who am I without my career? I'm going to go on this self-love journey to really find out who I am without this. And when you can start to do that, you will start to see things shift for you. You will start to see things shift for you in a really major way. And it's not easy. It was, I don't look on it in a bad way, it was a really transformational 12 to 18 months for me. But it was so cathartic, and it also has instilled in me this confidence and this conviction that I never had before, and it's translated in all areas of my life, in terms of the boundaries I put in within my own family, of the way that I run my business, of the way that I'm in my career right now, of who I am as a wife, of who I am as a parent. It just informs so much about me. It's allowed me to start living my life with so much more confidence and clarity. And that's what this piece of work can do for you too. And if you feel stuck and you're not sure, like, you know you want to go on this journey, but you don't know how to do it, you're not sure what to do, then drop me a DM on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and we can have a chat about it. And I can tell you a bit about the work that I do with my clients who are, alhamdulillah, getting married, who are doubling their salaries in one career move, who are setting up freedom-based businesses. And that can happen for you too. So thank you for listening to episode 1. And I'm so excited to jump on next week for episode 2 of this series.